Hey, another episode of KILLSHOT Breakdown. We're here with Clint Adams. It's got a really awesome doll sheep video. Kind of funny how much controversy it had on after you guys watch it. But Clint, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about this.
So the first thing we always kind of get into is what setup did you use for your sheep hunt?
Yeah, so this is a custom rifle build. It's an 18-inch proof carbon barrel with a American Rifle Company action and a Masterpiece Arms lightweight hunter chassis. And it's set up in a 6.5 Creedmoor. I've taken that to Alaska and killed a big moose and a caribou and a black bear with it. So I was really confident with this sheep hunt that it would do the job. Shooting the 147 ELDM, the match bullet. That's the bullet I really prefer to shoot out of this setup. So it's going about 2750, and has great ballistics and great performance.
Nice. And so before we get into the actual shot over here, tell us about the hunt, because you were telling me that it was really the weather just soaked in.
Yeah, so I've hunted with this outfitter the prior year. This was in August of 2022, this video here. In 2021, I went and with the same outfitter close by, a little lower for the moose, caribou, and black bear. And the weather was actually awesome. That was late September. So this hunt, I was expecting to have pretty good weather. I kind of knew the terrain or the mountain range we'd be in, but man, we had trouble getting in there. It took us 2 or 3 days to get in there just because the weather was so bad. There was so much fog and inversion and storms rolling in that really lasted the entire month of August. So to give some perspective, after this hunt ended and we were checking in this sheep at the DNR office, they said this was their 37th ram that they checked in, and this is 13 days after the season had opened. I said, well, how many do you typically would have checked in at this point? And they said, oh, we'd have well into 200 at this point. So just the conditions, the weather, the rain, and fog will completely shut you down there. And so this happened on day 7 of the hunt. We were 16 miles back. We had spotted these sheep the day before the opener. And then on the opener, we had one great day of weather, and we couldn't locate them. We hiked about 10 miles that day trying to locate them, and they just disappeared, which they were probably just in a little crack or crevice. And so we got a break in the weather after being 3 days in the tent, not even moving. And we hiked up to this ridge line where we could see off both sides, and we just were socked in. We couldn't see anything. And we got 1 5-minute break in the weather where the weather was flowing up from the bottom up high, up to the top, really heavy, the fog, and it just broke. And we looked down and we seen this band of rams 1,200 yards away. And so it was just like such a blessing. And before we knew it, fog had rolled in again and we couldn't see anything. And we're like, well, we know they're there. Let's use this opportunity with this fog shielding us from them. Let's tear off this rock shell face. So we tear off of it. We get to 700 yards. The fog lifted just a little bit, and we could see the sheep, and they're getting ready to bed down. And I shoot a lot of precision rifle series matches, so put hundreds of rounds, thousands of rounds down guns each year in competition, shooting anywhere from 300 to 1,500 yards, shooting small steel plates under time. So do a lot of shooting. And I was set up at 700 yards. And after sitting there and reading the wind, trying to get a read on the wind, there was so much fog in between us that it was hard to get a range. That's the aspect that not a lot of people talk about is, the terrain and hitting the animal is important. But when there's fog, your rangefinder's not even working.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And there was not enough vegetation to get a read on the wind. So while 700 yards, I'm super confident at, I was like, no, this is a sheep in a lifetime, an opportunity of a lifetime. The weather forecast for the next 3 days is terrible. So let's get closer. So we waited for the next fog cloud to roll in. We were all ready. Like we're sitting there waiting because if we didn't go when there was fog, those sheep would have seen us instantly. So we waited for that fog to roll in. And then we tore off down another shell face to get to the next little bench up above them, which we estimated would be about 400 yards. So we get down to that, we get up to the high point of it, so we're looking down on them, and the sheep had disappeared. we didn't know where they were. We were wondering if we bumped them, if we spooked them, but the guide had actually went back up the hill slowly while I'm set up, and he could see their horns, and they were bedded just behind a rock cliff. And we knew they'd get up soon enough. So I'm set up, I'm ready. And as soon as he comes back down to sit by my side, the smallest of the four, there was four of them, had walked out. And so, well, they're moving. And so I got a great range on that ram, but he wasn't legal. And then this guy walked out. And what you don't hear and everything is the guy saying, that's a sheep. Like, don't let that sheep get away. Like, that's a no-brainer. We'd spent some time looking at others that weren't even legal, but they were close. They were like within an eighth, a quarter of an inch, and we looked at them for an hour trying to make them legal. And this one was just like, it's a no-brainer. And so he walks out and comes down onto the snow pile, and the guy is trying to mess with my phone scope to get to be able to record it. And I'm like, I paid a lot of money to be here. I've worked my butt off. This is day 7, and he's not getting it. And so I get up off the rifle to go help him. I'm like, he's like, don't let that sheep get away. Just shoot it. Don't let this mess it up. And I'm like, no, I'm getting this kill shot. Like, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. So I get up, and right as I'm about to help him, he's like, okay, I'm recording. I got it. And so then I get back down on the gun, and he's like, I haven't double checked. Make sure that's the sheep.
That's what I was going to ask you. Because at the beginning of the clip, you could hear the guide say, I haven't checked him, or something like that.
Yeah, so there was 4 sheep. 3 are legal, 1's not, but this is the biggest of the group. He's the leader of the band for sure. And so I had watched him come down and be on that snowpack. There was one, the smaller sheep was up from him, wasn't him, and the 2 were still right at the cliff that had just walked out. So it was no-brainer, like target acquisition in my shooting career and experience. Like, I knew exactly what I sheep. So you hear me saying, oh, I'm 100% confident that's the one. And he says, okay.
And what distance did you cut to now?
We're exactly at 400. It might have been 402. So really confident, like with shooting, that's a chip shot. Like, feel really, really confident. So I'm laying down. I'm about at 18 power, so I can see my shot. I can see the bullet leaving my gun. That's why I choose to shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. Before this hunt, I took a 7 SAUM out. I took a 300 PRC out, and this gun all side by side, shot at 400, 750, 1,200 yards, different ammo. And for me, my accuracy was so much better, and my follow-up shots were so much better. That's why I choose to take this gun. Is I didn't flinch near as much. My target acquisition, my scope never left that sheep from each shot. And so,
yeah, when you watch, it's impressive. It almost is like a semi-auto. I mean, you're running that bolt so fast. And what people don't realize, especially, that's the next question we'll get to, is when you're set up and shooting this. But to shoot, reload, and get back on target is so hard, especially in a pressure moment like that. But man, those shots were super fast. So real quick, so what are you kind of explain to the people listening or watching is what's your setup like? Because you're not just on a bench, you're in Shell Rock and steep mountains.
I'm in Shell Rock, and I'm up on a little point. And so I've taken my bipod. I have a pretty cool bipod. It's called the Sky Pod, and it has 3 settings for width and then height as well. And so, being that I was on such a high elevation, I had to have it all the way out so I could get as low as possible. And then I took my backpack. Typically I'll have shooting bags, but on a 14-day sheep hunt, weight's key. And so I was just using my puffy jacket, my backpack, and I had my bino harness making a rear support, because I had to get my butt end of the gun up enough to be able to shoot down at this angle and build a comfortable position.
So you're shooting quite a bit down from this.
Yeah, probably a 25 to 30 degree angle down on him. The video makes this look a lot steeper than it is. Where the sheep is, the sheep looks like he's on a cliff. It wasn't flat, but he was. It's not as steep as this video looks.
Well, I don't know if you can see it in yours, but here's that first shot, and you can see the vapor go. Does it go just right over the top of him?
It goes actually just to the right of him. Okay. Like it almost cuts hair off of his chest.
Okay.
So even my guide, and this is why I don't shoot a high caliber, like a 300 PRC or a 7 SAUM, is because if I was relying on my guide as the spotter, his first instinct, like a lot of people, was that was high. You missed high. And so I'd have made a correction to go low and not give it the appropriate wind adjustment, and I would have probably missed him a second shot. And so I saw it clear as day that I missed him just a tenth of a mil right.
So when you see this snow explode, you missed. What were you thinking?
Oh, all the bad thoughts in the world. Like, you idiot! I can't believe you missed. Like, this is a sheep. Like, I thought it was a chip shot. And so my gun, I did have a slight hang fire in my trigger from being in that much rain and fog, and I had fallen a couple times in that terrain. It's so crazy.
Ooh, yeah.
So that hang fire was one thing, and then the second thing that came and crossed my mind before I shot the second shot was, well, maybe you bumped it and it's off. But then all of my shooting experience came to say, well, you can't do anything about it now. You saw where you missed. You knew where you were aiming. You saw where you missed. Now make the adjustment and send another one.
And
it doesn't matter if your gun's off or if it got bumped or anything.
So this is the second one, and it looks like it just right in the goodies, man.
That second one was, it pinwheeled him right behind the shoulder. And on that angle, what's cool is as you slow these down, as you look at it, you kind of see the bullet fragment and go behind it. And I think that's what's given some people the thought that there was multiple misses.
Yeah, you can see up piece go right there in the snow.
Yeah, the snow kicks up, so it just drills him. But a bullet, like all three shots, you see snow fly up behind.
So as we talked about those comments, I mean, this is a unique breakdown because usually I give it a couple weeks before we talk, but this just happened. We just posted this yesterday, and you've already had like over 200 comments. So there's been a lot of comments of people saying, "Oh my gosh, how many shots you need to shoot?" But you're back. There's 16 miles. You say you don't want to let this once in a lifetime animal walk, and you've already got a bullet in it. I mean, people don't understand. You got to keep shooting, man.
Yeah, there's cliffs. There's other things where the ram's falling down. Again, just with the once in a lifetime opportunity for me to be here and saved all this money to be able to go on this hunt as a non-resident, it was like there was no way I was going to let that sheep get out of my sight or put a second stock on it or anything. And so when I missed that first shot, it was just like, get a second one in it so fast. And I saw it was a good hit, and I knew that sheep was dead on that second shot, first impact. Knew it was dead.
But you've hunted enough. I'm sure you've seen animals that you thought you've just annihilated. They kind of get out of that shock and they regather and run. But it's been 3 seconds from your second to third shot, and you can see your third shot. It's also looks right in the money.
Really good, like maybe a touch higher than the other one, and that's why he drops. I don't think it didn't hit his spine. I don't know why I said I think. It didn't hit his spine. It hit right below, even below the back straps. But it hit on that back side. With the angle, you want to hit them a little high, and then it's going to come out, down low in their body. So that one just hit him. And sheep are actually really fragile. They're not very tough animals. But again, and then you see just the blood pouring out, and he was done. But again, I've shot elk with a big ass muzzleloader from 50 yards, boom, and then you think they're dead, and you walk up, and they jump up and take off. And so I knew that it typically wasn't going to be the chance here, but I had at bullets in, one more shot, he wasn't dead. I knew my wind hold, I knew the correction, and just let's shoot another one and get him down fast.
So the fourth shot was more just regiment and just making sure, because we had this conversation earlier. Is like nobody that I know goes hunting and looks at an animal ready to pull the trigger and thinks, "Oh, I hope I can wound this animal." You're wanting to kill immediately, but where he's dying right now, I mean, this is a quicker dispatch than just letting him bleed out.
It was the insurance policy, like it was. If he still has his front legs and he goes down that snow and gets out of sight, if fog rolls in and now we lose complete sight of him and now we're hiking down to him and we jump him and we don't even know because there's so much fog.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want that sheep to leave the site. Like, I wanted him dead right then and there. And people have the comments, and it's typically older school of mind people where, shoot a bigger caliber and use that kinetic energy and that force. And, if you have a hang fire, your gun gets bumped and you shoot and you don't see where you missed, what's your correction going to be? You're relying on your spotter, and my spotter's not near as experienced of a shooter as I am. And so, I want to control what I can control, and I want to see my bullet leave my barrel, and I want to see exactly where it hits.
Yep. No, I agree 100% with all of that. So once you see him rolling over on his back here, what were you thinking?
Oh, just started to tear up, honestly. Like there was just such a respect, such a feeling of accomplishment. You know, a lot of people ask me why I hunt and why I like to do this kind of stuff, and for the harvest and the kill, that's a very small piece of it. Just the feeling of accomplishment of, you know, being 180 miles in the middle of nowhere for 13 days. Like it's a grind, it's a toll. I think something like 30 or 40% of sheep hunters that engage in a hunt and spend this kind of money, they don't finish. They last 2 or 3 days and say, "Get me out of here."
Yeah, I mean, people have got to understand it's Alaska. You're remote, but the mountains are so steep and treacherous, and it's not like you can just do a light day pack. You got to bring stuff for the weather that you're talking about. You have to.
Yeah, you're 60 pounds. You're carrying your tent, your food. You know,
it's crazy. It's during, but it's awesome, man. I think this is one of the better ones just because of the way it went down. But
yeah, and just like I said, I've had a lot of people reach out and say, "Man, talk to me about sheep hunting. I've been wanting to go, but I'm hearing the weather and X percentage of hunts don't even get a chance because, you know, they're 10 days, 8 of them are spent in the tent." And I had that, and I had all those thoughts 3 days in the tent of like, man, is this outfitter going to be cool and let me come back at a discounted rate or something like that? Because, you know, I'm not going to go home. I'm getting every dime I can out of this. I'm going to pursue, like, if my feet hurt, nothing's going to stop me, you know, fear or giving up or anything. And so just to have this sheep be right there and when the clouds essentially just dispersed was just so awesome. It was just really lucky, and then, you know, to have it play out like it did was really cool. So glad to be able to share this kind of stuff with people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story. I think it'll definitely help as people go back and look and read the comments, and it just helps clarify a lot of things. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's a good sheep. It was we didn't measure it out. We think he's right at around 155, 158 inch doll sheep. He was between 8 and 8.5 years old. So great sheep, 36 inches on his long side, broken off on the other, but just the flare of him. If you go to my Instagram, there's some other pictures of him, but it was a great sheep and great experience. Yeah, I'm on Instagram as Clint W Adams. That's my handle. I don't have a lot of followers. I don't post a ton, but when I do, it's usually, you know, hunting related cool stuff like this. So I have a library on my phone full of cool content, and I decided to share it with you. And I'm like, people should see this. This is really cool. And you have a big platform, so I'm like, let's get it out there.
We appreciate it, man, and thanks for that breakdown. And if anybody else wants to submit their videos, just DM us on Instagram or Facebook. You can email us at KILLSHOT Central, email it that way, and then go check this out on YouTube. Hey, we appreciate it, Clint.
Okay, thanks, Eric.